What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the Opinionated Hippie, continuing my deep dive into the Grateful Dead's 1973 officially released catalog. This is release number 16 that I've discussed on this channel. Another one from the Here Comes Sunshine 1973 box set. This is May 26, 1973 in San Francisco, California. Boys are back home. Another one that approaches 4 hours. I'm going to talk about this show, review this show, rant about what I believe is a near perfect second set, rank this among the other 15 that I've done. Not going to play any music from it, just going to talk about it. That's my thing. Yeah, and that's it. But anyways, another fantastic 1973 show. What else is there to say? The band is in peak form. Keith sounds fantastic. He's got his little, what is it that he's playing? Like, it's not piano, it's like a Fender Rhodes organ or whatever. He's getting that, just that kind of bouncy fat keyboard sound. It's kind of all over this. His piano work is great. Excellent show. The band's bringing it. They're in San Francisco, so it's just got, they're at home, they're comfortable. The first set is, for the most part, kind of laid back. I'm not going to say low energy because they're delivering and it's good, but there's nothing really too aggressive about it or too outlandish about it. It's just like your typically solid first set. There's 3 sets. Opens up with a Promised Land, Bill in particular, sounding particularly feisty. We get a Deal. I like Deal as a second song, bringing the energy kind of early. Jerry's solo isn't the most aggressive thing. In fact, it's a little bit laid back and restrained a little bit. I don't know if Jerry's struggling or he's tired, but there's a little bit of, it works in the context of the show, but he definitely is not out there just going at it as he does on other shows. We get a Jack Straw. We get a Tennessee Jed. Jerry's getting funky with the fills on the Tennessee Jed. The Race is On. Sugaree. Another one that feels a little bit restrained, like Jerry's holding back a little, like he's not leaving it all out there. Mexicali Blues, A Road Jimmy, It Looks Like Rain. Looks Like Rain is the first spot of the show where I'm like, all right, Jerry's starting to get into this. That closing thing when Bob's going off vocally and Jerry's kind of like, doing like little fills. Jerry's starting to bring a little bit of intensity to the show. They love each other, has a really nice bounce. Jerry's really getting into the vocal version, the vocal performance of this. And then we get a pretty solid standard 18 minutes, which feels short for this era, playing in the band to close the first set. Starts off pretty low key, but after like a couple minutes, Jerry starts to get a little bit of a gallop into his groove. Energy starts to peak. We start to get some intensity. Very Phil led for the most part, this playing in the band. Jerry's out there and he's doing the playing in the band thing where he's just, non-stop exploring, it seems like the whole time, but he's not too aggressive. Phil really seems to kind of be pushing the lead on this for a good standard of this. Weir has some really good rhythm stuff in there. He's kind of pushing it. Around the 12-minute mark, which is about 8-9 minutes into the actual jam, Jerry really starts to get aggressive and force things, but almost immediately, as soon as the energy starts to get up, we bring it back down for that sort of quiet, calmer section that leads us eventually into the reprise. Beautiful build back into the reprise. Pretty standard playing in the band, but great. I mean, I will take playing in the band. This is one of those songs where, if you were to release a massive box set that was nothing but the playing in the band jams, talking to whoever's in charge of release and stuff like that, I would buy that. Love playing in the band. It just feels short. At 17 minutes, it feels unexplored, and Jerry isn't that aggressive. It's definitely a Phil-led one more than anything, but still satisfying. A solid first set. The second set, even though it really doesn't have it as one sort of epic-y jam, which is what opens up the set, the second set to me is just perfect. It just sounds perfect. It opens up with the Here Comes Sunshine, and that may be why I think the rest of it is so perfect, because this Here Comes Sunshine, it just sounds perfect. Keith sounds great. There's a magical, it's delicate, but it's magical. It just feels like This really feels like the song is about like there was a flood and then here comes sunshine after the flood and there's life is back and you want to like this version added there's dark versions of this where like you're struggling through the flood and then the sunshine comes, and then there's versions that are like entirely take place in the sunshine and they're bright and they're bouncy and they're magical. That's what this version is. The first jam in the middle section jam is like there's a jam, then they go back into like a little like pre-written part, and then there's this other jam that will eventually lead us into the vocals. That first jam, it's not even led by anybody. It's just everybody's like just in a field dancing and having a good time and playing their instruments, and Keith is pushing it, and Jerry's got ideas, but he's definitely not leading the charge, and everything Bill and Phil and Bobby are doing are just magical. It's just like, it reminds me of like an early Bird song in which they just take flight and you're not really sure where it's going to go or it's just like people just jamming. I mean, it's a stupid word, right? I'm reducing it to what it is. But it's like there are versions like this, almost this entire set. There's something about this where like none of them are playing Here Comes Sunshine. Like if you were to isolate any particular like musician, it doesn't really sound like they're playing Here Comes Sunshine, but put it together and it's a beautiful jam that obviously lives within Here Comes Sunshine. I just think it's absolutely amazing. And then they go back into that middle part, and that out of the middle part, Jerry's like, okay, I got ideas now. And he's a little more forceful. He's more taking the lead, kind of get a little bit of a funkier solo, but it's just absolutely just the manifestation of everything the Grateful Dead is about. It's just these musicians locked into this idea, just flying around in like improvisational space, managing to stay out of each other's way, but at the same time, like listening to each other, and it's absolutely beautiful. And then of course we get the vocals and we get this really awesome closing jam out of the last vocals. Absolutely amazing. Keith sounds amazing. Jerry is amazing. This Here Comes Sunshine, probably not the best. That one on volume 1 of Dick's Picks, that just epic 15-minute one, probably takes the cake for my favorite. But this one, it's just so well executed and so perfectly played. Beautiful. And from there going forward, to me, everything in this show just sounds perfect. We get in El Paso, and it just seems like every musician, Keith's little flavors, and what Jerry's doing with his fills, like just absolutely just everything is perfect. I was eating out somewhere, and the original version of El Paso came on the speaker in the restaurant, and it was loud enough where I could like actually pick up the instrumentation and hear what was going on. This is such a trippy version of El Paso. Like, it's a straightforward rendition, but when you actually like listen to this on like headphones and you like can hear what every musician is doing, this is like a Western on LSD. It really is. It's just like, yeah, it's pretty straightforward, but it's like cowboys on acid here. It's some crazy stuff. And this is when the band is just absolutely like unlike any other band. Next, we get a loser. Everybody's bringing it in the loser. It feels big. It feels important. It just feels like, I beat it on down the line with 9 beats before the first verse. Jerry and Keith, some super funky solos in here. You Ain't Woman Enough. We get Donna. It's a Keith-led intro with the piano bringing it. I think they only did this just over a dozen times, like 14 times that we have tapes of in 73. I wish this had stuck around. I like this. I think this sounds good. I like the country. I like Donna getting a chance to do a little Loretta. It sounds good. Yeah, it's a fun song. Would have been a great thing to stick around in the first sets. We get a Box of Rain, which seems to gel from the beginning. This is one of those that it usually seems like it takes like a verse or two before they like find whatever the groove is. This one is gelling from the get-go. It's tight, it's bouncy, it's got good energy. Then we get a China Cat, which is just psychedelic music at its most joyous and celebratory. We're still dancing in the sunshine from Here Comes Sunshine. Everybody knows what they're doing, and yet no one seems to be actually playing China Cat. It's just everybody is creating the environment for China Cat to exist. The segue jam is absolutely fantastic. It's super peppy, super like right before they get into like they go into the Feeling Groovy jam. They kind of lean into the Feeling Groovy jam. There are some versions where it's like a couple of them will hit the changes and Jerry just goes off. This one, they're all kind of leaning into it. Just it's very sweet. It's melodic. And then after they get out of the Feeling Groovy jam, they kind of bring it down a little bit, kind of let it just simmer before we start into Rider. Absolutely great writer that just kind of builds and builds and builds as the vocals go on. Fantastic rendition of this. Get a Big River with great energy. We get a Bertha, which is just a locked-in performance. Keith absolutely sounds. Right before Jerry solo starts his solo, Keith has a boom, then Jerry takes off. Everybody's locked in, feeding each other, like just feeding each other. So when they have something to do, it just like sounds better. Oh, it's just absolutely amazing. And then Bill's drumming during the chorus of Bertha, absolutely fantastic stuff. Light got really bright outside my window just right now. That's crazy. But yeah, I don't know. And then we get in Around and Around. And I wrote, listening to this, I'm like, this is why they play Around and Around. This is one of those songs where I'm like, man, I'm tired of this. I've heard this so many times. Why do they like to play it? And then you hear a version like this, and you're like, yeah, this is why they play this song. It's a fun song. When they're locked in and enjoying themselves, this is great. Like other than the Here Comes Sunshine, which might be one of the top 5 of the, 3 dozen or so that they played in this era, this is probably one of my top 5 Here Comes Sunshines. And that is really the one thing I think you have to hear from this set. But the rest of the set, everything is just so perfectly played and the band is so locked in. And it's like if you go out to like fine dining where like everything is perfectly plated and the colors match and the flavors complement each other. And it's not like anything, nobody's reinventing any wheels. It's just, they're doing everything perfectly. This is just a perfect second set. Third set starts off with great energy. We get a Mississippi half step, super high energy. They're fully engaged in this from the beginning. Nice, beautiful ending. Not quite the epic Mississippis that we would eventually get years down the line, but we're getting close to like having this song bring that sort of just majestic energy that I think would define it like in the 80s and 90s. Me and my uncle grabbed a bottle, changed the lyrics, and a little when the violence breaks out after the card game, we got a couple changed lyrics here. He's Gone, super just well played version, super chill jam at the end. We got some nice baritone when Phil's doing He's Gone. Keith doing some really nice stuff on piano in that closing jam. After the vocal jam, we get a short little tasty jam, that sort of cascade jam. That when Jerry starts that, kind of let that float for a while. Then we go into a truckin', really nice play truckin', good build, good drop at the closing jam at there. More great Keith. To me, this is great Keith show. Keith is representing here. Nice short, high energy jam before we downshift into the other one. Really strange other one. We kind of get a really kind of low-key fill run with a boom, but we don't explode into it. We just kind of like simmer into it. And for the first 8 minutes of this, nothing's really happening too much. We get like almost like a bass solo. Phil just starts taking over. A lot of this is just Bill and Phil just going at it. We get a bass solo for a couple minutes, and then Bill comes back in, and then we get another Phil bass run, only this one leads us into a more like committed, hardcore, high energy. The other one jam, and this jam, looks like we're going to go into the vocals, and then we we'll peak again, and then we'll bring it back down and we'll peak. So we got like some peaks and valleys. Finally, about 8 minutes into it, we get the first verse. Bill is super engaged in this. After the verse, Jerry starts getting really psyche and starts pushing the energy. We're staying pretty under control. Things aren't getting too crazy. But as soon as Jerry starts like pushing like the really like strumming hard, that aggressive kind of building energy, it's almost like the threat of going somewhere dark just cannot last in this show, because that positive energy from the second set, that beautifully colorful, vibrant, psychedelic Here Comes Sunshine and China Rider, like we don't want that in this show. Like San Francisco's like, no, 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 no. So when Jerry starts to push that like aggressive energy in the other one, immediately it's just like, no, 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 no. Let's let things kind of fall apart. Let's let things kind of just like cool down. And even though they start to fall apart, Jerry's still doing like these low-key psych runs. Things are getting kind of crazy. And, you can feel the threat of darkness, but nobody's fully committing to it. So we get this sort of amorphous, free-floating sort of jam for a while. And then out of this, Eyes of the World. Just those, we're like, hey, man, this is the beauty we're looking for, right? And everybody's like, yeah, this is what we're talking about. Eyes of the World is fantastic. Just the comfort of those opening chords out of like the threatening, demonic, dark psych energy of the other one that's there but not fully committed to. When those Eyes of the World chords come out, you're just like, oh yeah, all right, we're back here. I like this. This is what this show's about. This show's about home. It's about the beaches. It's about like being around people you love. It's a great Eyes. Jerry's just in pure flight with his guitar solos. As soon as we finish the vocals, that jam is effortless. There's so much tension and release in that jam. The post vocals before we get to the Stronger Than Dirt-esque jam, where they kind of build and then they let it go, and then they build and then they let it go. They do that a couple times. They hit Stronger Than Dirt pretty hard. That gets enthusiastically ragged as they go on, where they're hitting those notes and they're hitting those changes. But it's almost like this fish thing where I'm going to do it a little off. I'm going to do it a little ahead. I'm going to be a little loud, and I'm going to be a little more distorted. And so even though you can recognize it, everybody's kind of bringing their own little flavor to it. So it gives it this like ragged, aggressive quality. Absolutely beautiful. Eventually, we kind of let things kind of calm down. We go into a China Doll. Beautiful, delicate, great ending. Then we get a Sugar Mag, and then we get a Casey Jones as your final encore to close out what is almost a 4-hour show. I think the tape itself is 4 hours, but like the actual cassette tapes are 4 hours. But if you edit out all the in-between patter and stuff, it's like, you take a good 10 minutes out of the show. Absolutely fantastic. To me, the only thing that's an absolute must here, like if I were to compare the other one to other ones, or the He's Gone or the Eyes, like I don't think any of these are maybe top 5 or maybe even top 10 from 73, except for that Here Comes Sunshine. And that Here Comes Sunshine just demands that everything else in this show just be played perfectly with the utmost care and the utmost attention to detail. Keith is fantastic. Jerry's pretty restrained for most of the show, but when he picks his spots to step up, you're like, yeah, Jerry's still got it. He's got it. He's locked into something. Bob's good. Phil, I mean, it's just this band being absolutely fantastic. Another fantastic 73 show. Crazy thing is I'm ranking these, which is stupid because they're all fantastic. But if I had to rank this one among the other 16, despite all the high praise I have heaped on it, it's only at number 12 because everything else on that list is just so ridiculously incredible. It couldn't quite get over the hump because as much as I love that Here Comes Sunshine, the one that's at number 11 has that Playing El Paso, Playing Wharf Rat, Playing Do segment, which is just absolutely fantastic. But that's why this one ultimately fell right below Here Comes Sunshine. That was the thing that knocked it down. But to me, this Here Comes Sunshine, this entire second set is it's just a perfectly played second set. It's like the band doing what the band does perfectly. All right, that's all I got. Ramble on about this show, this 4-hour show. But anyways, give me your thoughts on this show, on other shows, on the Dead in general, blah, blah, blah. You know how this works. They will only have one more show in this box set because I already did the RFK show separately because they have 2 RFK shows in the box. One of them was released separately. So we'll do that. And then maybe come back to 73 later, get another tour, go back to the 80s. I'm in the mood for some 80s. But anyways, that's it for now. I'm rambling. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, share, comment, and peace. Talk to you later.